Welcome to another All Israel News Update. I'm Hanan Lishinsky, and today we're going to talk about the unprecedented historic move by the International Criminal Court to request arrest warrants against Hamas leaders, which is of course reasonable and understandable, but also against two Israeli leaders, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and his defense minister, who just sharply attacked him in public, Yoav Gallant, the defense minister of Israel. So the ICC and its chief prosecutor Karim Khan issued a request for arrest warrants against those five leaders, 3 from Hamas, 2 from Israel, alleging that they committed wars against humanity, war crimes, not genocide, specifically against the Israeli leaders. They didn't say that they were committing genocide, which, by the way, is something that is going on at the International Court of Justice, which is another court and handles accusations against countries. This is the International Criminal Court. It handles cases against individuals, and Chief Prosecutor Karim Khan yesterday announced that he would seek arrest warrants against Netanyahu and Gallant. And now a 3-judge panel will have to decide whether to grant those arrest warrants or not. So let's look at what this means. Israel, in this case, Netanyahu and Gallant, are very afraid that this could sharply curb their travel around the world. And why? The ICC's authority is based on the Rome Statutes, which were signed by 120 or so, a bit more countries, but they weren't signed by Israel and by the US. So Israel and the US are saying the ICC doesn't have any authority over Israel in this case because Israel hasn't signed the statutes granting the authority to this criminal court. By the way, who has signed these statutes is the State of Palestine. Yes, the ICC recognized the State of Palestine a couple of years ago in a legally very dubious move. And this actually forms part of the legitimation or a part of the reasoning the ICC gives as to its authority to investigate claims of war crimes against Israel, because the State of Palestine, as they call it, is a member of those statutes, and therefore the ICC sees itself in a position to investigate those claims on the territories of Judea and Samaria, or what is internationally known as the West Bank, as well as the Gaza Strip, which is supposed to be part or become part one day of a Palestinian state. So predictably, Israeli leaders have vehemently rejected all of those accusations. Israel says that, of course, first of all, Israel isn't doing any war crimes, isn't committing war crimes. The IDF is fighting according to international law. Israel has also rejected, as we said earlier, the authority of the ICC to even investigate anything connected to Israel, because Israel hasn't signed the statutes, remember. Benjamin Netanyahu, the prime minister, has issued a video statement strongly rejecting those accusations. And in a historic and very rare vote nowadays, even the Knesset, which is Israel's parliament, a large majority, 106 out of 120 Knesset members, signed a statement condemning the ICC for its request to issue arrest warrants, including people who are, at the moment, even just hours before this announcement, were criticizing Netanyahu and also Gallant. Those two politicians aren't especially popular among their politician colleagues. Among the population, that's something different. But among their colleagues, especially Benjamin Netanyahu, isn't loved at all. But all of those Knesset members stood by their side, signed the petition or the statement condemning the ICC for its move. Another thing that Israeli leaders and politicians have said is that the ICC here is completely unfairly singling out Israel for humanitarian violations, war crimes, and all the such, while Israel is in the midst of defending itself against Hamas rocket attacks, which are being perpetrated or launched from civilian areas in the Gaza Strip against civilian areas in Israel. So this is a ridiculous situation, and Israeli politicians are, of course, rejecting this vehemently. Now, in the midst of all this, despite the somewhat frosty relations between the Israeli government and the Biden administration recently, actually the Biden administration has come out very strongly against the move by the ICC and has stood by Israel's side very clearly so far. President Biden and several of the Biden administration spokesmen have very clearly spoken against the ICC's move. They're also saying that the ICC doesn't have jurisdiction because, remember, the US is also not a member of the Rome Statutes of the Criminal Court's membership, meaning that this could be a precedent for future action by the ICC against the US as well. And in fact, this was considered a few years back when the ICC was considering launching similar action against the US for its military action in Afghanistan. And following this, the Trump administration at the time sanctioned the ICC, which is something that Israeli leaders are telling the US right now to repeat or to reinstate those sanctions against the ICC. So behind the scenes, Israel is working very strongly, talking to the Biden administration and working on different avenues to pressure the ICC behind the scenes, either through legislation in the US, and also, of course, the Israeli Foreign Ministry has created a staff to work on this issue. They're reaching out to Israel's friends around the world, to countries in Europe especially, in an effort to pressure the ICC not to execute those arrest warrants. So what will come out of all this? I think it's very important, especially for an international audience, to really spell this out, because in Israel it's taken as obvious in itself. Israel will, of course, not cooperate with arrest warrants if they will be issued in the end. Israel will, of course, not give over Benjamin Netanyahu and Yoav Gallant to the criminal court for court proceedings. This, even the thought is ridiculous. And what will remain to be seen is if other countries will cooperate, and in the rare or improbable case, let's say that Netanyahu or Gallant will travel to one of the countries that is a member state of the ICC, if they would decide to arrest them, that's a different story. That is something that Israeli leaders are concerned about, but it's very improbable that it will happen. So Israeli media has already reported that behind the scenes there is a lot going on. As we said, the foreign ministry has like an operations room going for this, and there will be legal action against the ICC's request, in addition to the earlier efforts that we talked about behind the scenes, pressuring the Biden administration, pressuring European countries. So Israel will fight this at all costs. That much is clear. So to sum all of this up, it's very improbable at the moment that this will have any effects on the ground. Netanyahu or Gallant will not be arrested. By the way, so the same is true for the Hamas leaders, who were also requested to issue arrest warrants against. They, of course, will also not be arrested. Let's be clear about this. So on the ground, nothing much will happen, most probably. What remains is the immense damage to Israel's reputation and to Israel's prestige around the world. This gives lots of ammunition to anti-Semitic people around the world, to Israel haters around the world, who will now be able to point at this maybe once prestigious institution, the International Criminal Court, and say, look, they have said that Israel's leaders are carrying out war crimes, crimes against humanity, and this will, of course, in the coming years, show its effects around the world. Thank you for being with us at the All Israel News Update.